And we are live. Hello. Welcome to episode 12 of Common Heathens. Thank you for joining us. I am Mr. Atheist, and my colleague here is Godless Mum.
Hi. And today we're going to talk a little bit about atheist parenting.
Yes, we're going to share, Godless Mum is going to share a story about her atheist hoodie.
Yeah.
We're going, which was cool. And a little bit of a discussion, if we have time for it, as to whether or not the Catholic Church is pro-science.
Yeah. And if you want to see us, keep doing this, the best way to do that is to help by sharing this link so other people can join us. And or you can also do it through Patreon at patreon.com/commonheathens. So
Indeed.
What's new with you, Mr. Oz?
I have my first ever paid from a stranger, not a friend, not a family, photography booking for this weekend. So actual photography work from someone who contacted me and said, I want you to come and take photos.
That is awesome. That is so cool.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's a maternity shoot, which I've not done before, so I've been looking at what makes a good maternity photo. So I don't know if she's going to be belly out or what. Don't know what to expect, really.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what she wants.
Yes, exactly.
So you're gonna share some of the photos after if you get permission, right?
Yes, definitely. Well, I think so. The deal I've got at the moment is I give the person 5 edited photos which have no watermark or copyright. So they're just them, because I figure no one's going to try and make money off photos of them that I took. A landscape photo or a photo of a particular, like a band or something, might be different. So, yeah, she gets to have the photos, do whatever she wants with, but I get to put them on my website and say, hey, here are photos I've taken.
Cool. That sounds awesome. Congratulations. So, Good on you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes. No, thank you. Yes. And what about you? What's going on in the world of Godless momming?
Pretty much just puppy. Puppies are a lot of work. And I had to get a puppy sitter just to do this podcast. So she's a handful, but I love it.
And that's Lucy, isn't it?
Yes, Lucy. She's so sweet. Oh, it's funny. The other day I was walking her and I noticed she got scared by something, and I noticed this ridge of hair come up on her back, and it wasn't like with normal dogs when they get that little spiky thing on the back of it. It was like a ridge, and I was like, wait a minute, maybe she's a ridgeback.
Wow.
So I thought she was a lab boxer, but maybe she's a lab ridgeback. But I don't know. I guess we'll know whether she's 120 pounds or 60 pounds.
Yeah, I guess so. Yes. So tell me, when we discussed yesterday what we might talk about on the show today, you mentioned wearing your atheist hoodie into town. I want to hear about this.
Well, I was walking Lucy, as I do every morning, and I just it's first thing in the morning, and it was kind of rainy out, so I just threw on whatever, and I wasn't really thinking about it. Every morning when I go on these walks with Lucy, we go through our small, tiny town. We're talking, we have 3 restaurants in our town. It's very, very small. And so every time we walk through it in the morning, there's 2 separate spots in town where the Jehovah's Witnesses have set up with their little rolly carts that pop up into a pamphlet stand.
Yes, we have one of them in Melbourne. I've seen a few times. It's actually quite good, the way they just, and it's sort of all sets up and they're ready to go.
It's Jesus to go. But there's 2 separate spots where they set up, and so I, when I'm thinking, I don't usually wear my atheist hoodie because I'm trying to walk my dog. I'm not looking for a date in the morning. And so this morning I forgot, and I threw on my atheist hoodie, which is just a black hoodie. It says atheist on the back in white. And I was walking around, and halfway through my walk, it hit me. I'm like, oh shit, I'm wearing my atheist hoodie. And so I'm half expecting every time I turn the corner that someone's going to damn me to hell, right? And as we were on our way home and nobody had said anything, and I was like, okay, I'm thinking in my head, okay, home free, nobody's gonna attack me or anything like that. And then all of a sudden I hear this man's voice behind me, and he's like, hey, wait up. And I'm like, I slowed down. I thought he was gonna say hi to my dog. And I slowed down, and then he's like, let me see your hoodie. And I just like, this terror.
Oh no, here it comes.
And so I turned around and I let him see, and he's like, right on. He's like, me too. All you have to do is believe in yourself. And I was like, that's fucking awesome. I think that Twitter is kind of a little bit making me think that things are a little bit worse here than they are.
Yeah, maybe.
So this morning, which I haven't told you yet, I did it again just to see. I wore it again. I wore my Atheist hoodie again on my walk with Lucy. And this time we walked past and spoke to the Jehovah's Witnesses, and they were super nice. And, well, I mean, they can't really say anything, right? Like, they can't, when people say, oh, atheists always have to let everybody know that they're an atheist. Well, they can't really say that because they're sitting out there with their little pamphlet suitcases. Yeah,
it's not like they can try, why don't you keep that to yourself whilst we stand here and hand out pamphlets and stuff. But it might be, they might see you as a challenge. Like, maybe like back at Jehovah's Witness Central, there's like a scale of how many points you get. And like maybe converting an atheist is worth like 100 points, whereas converting a Mormon might be only 5 or something.
Well, I do have my assigned Jehovah's Witness. I have my own witness who comes and we talk about the Bible. And I actually see right on my desk, I have homework. Here's my Bible.
Yeah.
Which I got from my Taiwanese brother from another mother. And look, Jehovah's Witness crap in it.
Nice.
Yeah, that's from the last time she was here. So she knows that I'm an atheist. She comes. Yeah. She's working on me. She's trying to save my soul.
They're one of the. I probably know less about them than most others. Do you know like what? So they're Bible followers, not like the Mormons who have their own additional book on top.
Yeah.
But
I don't know a ton.
Yeah.
About them, all I know is that they are very like they're centered around like the end times, like they're just convinced that over the last 100 years or so there's been like, I don't know, like 60, I can't remember the number, but I remember it was really high when I was researching this. There's like 60 different dates that they've said was going to be the end of the world and that Jesus was going to come back and all of this, and they've been wrong every single time. And they're also like, they're notorious for, shunning, like excommunicating people.
Yes, yeah.
No, they're not all like that. Like, there's not all Jehovah's Witnesses are like that, but there are families out there that like, kick their kids out for doing stuff, and they don't celebrate anything except for like Easter, I think, and Christmas. Like, they don't even celebrate birthdays, I don't think.
Oh, yes, yeah. And they can't have blood donation? Like, if you're in an accident, is that them? A blood transfusion?
I'm not sure.
I think it might be them. But Chris in chat says Russia has banned Jehovah's Witnesses, he read yesterday. A very unsecular thing to do. And yes, he said they don't allow blood transfusions and their end times theology.
Yeah.
I don't know, what a miserable way to live, to be completely focused not only on the end of your life, but the end of everyone's, the end of the world. Like, spending your entire life doing that. I try to more do the opposite and spend my entire life ignoring the fact that one day it'll end. Yeah. Like, make the most of it.
It's not as dark as it sounds, because it's more about, like, they believe that God is going to bring his kingdom to earth. So there's like 144,000 people that get to go up to heaven, but the rest of them get to enjoy earth as like as a perfect paradise, you know. And
Okay.
I believe that if what I'm gathering from my own personal witness is correct, that's what they believe. So it's not that dark. Like but it's still silly.
Yeah. Oh, well, as long as, I mean, I don't have a problem with the people on the street handing out pamphlets. When I was in Sydney with our American mates, Matt, Seth and Aaron Ra came out, there's a known spot in Sydney where some evangelists get, and they're actually shouting. Like one lady had a megaphone on her hip with a little microphone, and she was shouting at people walking past who are just going about their own business. So I think, I think that's a bit extreme. But if they're just standing next to their little setup of pamphlets and saying, would you like to read more about the stupid stuff we believe in? They probably don't phrase it like that, though. I don't have a problem with that. Coming to your door, I know that you've got your favourite and she doesn't bother you, but I don't know. They could probably keep that more to themselves. But yeah, just standing on the street.
Yeah, I
but
don't
it was
like
funny
the idea of them coming to my door.
Yeah,
but I'm still nice to her. But the reason why is because, like, it's my understanding that they are expected to do that, and that if you question the beliefs of the church, if you question their theology, then it's like you can be excommunicated, you can be shunned by your family and stuff like that. So they kind of feel like, it's their obligation as a member of the church to go door to door. They all have to do it, even as I've told you before about the 80-year-old lady who used to come to my door. So it doesn't matter what your age is. Everybody has to do it. And if they don't, they could be, cast out of their family. So I can't get mad at her for coming to my door, which is why I'm nice, because who knows how she really feels about it, right? Like, she may not like doing that. And I can't find it in my heart to be rude or mean.
Yeah. We've got a good question in the chat, which I'm going to get to in just a sec, but I just wanted to highlight something. When we were up in Sydney, there was two great examples of the difference between how Aaron Ra, Matt Dillahunty, and Seth Andrews go about things. So the first one was when this lady was doing a thing, Aaron went up next to her and just started shouting out atheist stuff, like just at the top of his voice. And he's a big guy with a big voice, which is very Aaron. Matt Dillahunty just stood and watched, and then there was another quieter group over to the side, and one of them came over to him, and he just started chatting to them, like just quietly one-on-one, and Seth went around filming everything. And I thought, there's no better way to sum up the differences in how they go about what they do. And the other one, there's a photo of them at the Sydney Opera House. It might have been the same day, actually, and Aaron's wearing a T-shirt that says "There's no God but Allah," and "but Allah" is crossed out, so it just says "There's no God." Matt's T-shirt said, I think it was the one that said, "I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible," and Seth was just wearing a plain blue T-shirt. So yeah, they're very different styles, and they all work for each of them, obviously. But yeah, that was cool. I like noticing that. All right, so our question, if you want to go to this, from Farhad Ansari in the chat. He says, "Well, I'm here, new member in atheism, an ex-Muslim, but I still have doubt about how can universe comes out of nothing. Could you please explain to me about this so I'm fully satisfied?" Well, short answer, no. But
there's really no clear answer on that. And I mean, that's, as an atheist, that's kind of what you have to deal with. You got to cope with that, the fact that we don't know things, and it's okay to not know things. But the thing is at the same time, you can have hope that one day we will know, because we have tons of people like Lawrence Krauss and like, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who are, working towards a better understanding of these things. And I think that there's a lot of hope in that. When theists like to ask you, where do you get your hope from? Well, that's one of the places that I get my hope from, is like, I can't wait to find out more shit about our universe. And I think that, before I die, we'll probably know a lot more.
I think the thing that fills me with hope is that, like, look how far science has come in 400 years. What's that? Maybe 5, 6 generations, 7, I don't know, depending on how long we live. We've gone from almost starting, almost saying, hey, let's look closer into this, to putting people on the moon. We've got a satellite that's out beyond Saturn now. We've mapped the human genome. We've built the Large Hadron Collider. And the growth in science isn't like this. It's like this. It's exponential. So I have great hope that the more we discover, the more we're able to discover. But particularly on the question, I think the flaw in the question and the flaw in what theists say is, how can something come from nothing? Is that there was never nothing. There was never a time when there was nothing, because, well, this is only my own guessing off the top of my head, by the way. Nothing can't exist, because if it exists, then it is something. So there's not a time when there was nothing. So whatever was in its singularity or made it up, or whatever it was that, the singularity was, it was something. And as soon as there was time, there was something, and then something happened, and the big expansion happened.
Yeah.
And then
I find it difficult to understand. I find it difficult to understand why theists seem to think that there's only 2 options. It's either God made it happen, or it was nothing. It came out of nothing, and it was random. And there's like shit tons of fucking gray area in between there. Like, there's possibilities we probably haven't even thought of. And it's just, I don't understand why people limit themselves like that. Those aren't the only 2 options. And furthermore, like, it's, when you have a God, when you say that it was a God who did it, like, then you start with the infinite regress, right? Like, it's like, well, then who made the God? Where did the God come from? There was I was watching the Atheist Experience the other day, and Matt Dillahunty, I think it was Matt Dillahunty, he was talking to somebody who was saying, well, he was kind of a theist a little bit, where he believed that maybe alien life created us. And he's like, and his reasoning was because we had to come from somewhere. We are so complex and blah, blah, blah. It's obvious that there was a designer. But then, I think it was Russell Glasser, actually. Russell, all he said was, well, then who made the aliens?
Exactly.
And he was like, and he was stumped. Like, it's just, if you can't just do that without explaining where they come from too. Like, sure, keep going back and back and back and explaining, but eventually you're going to start at the beginning somewhere, and like, it's just, it's okay to not know. It's okay to not know. It's okay to wait for us to know with evidence.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that people, like, I've recently responded to a blog that someone wrote about 10 good reasons to believe God exists. And one of them is, well, yes, the universe must have come from somewhere, and it's not necessarily, they always cite an intelligent designer, but they invent things like it must have been intelligent, it must have been metaphysical. And when I ask people what that means, they never know. That must have been outside of time, and I ask what that means, and they don't have an answer for that either. It must have been powerful, and it must have been a consciousness. But why? They never explain why those things must have been the case. And given that we don't know what was going on, we don't know what it was like, you can't say. And one of my things was, I said, it could have been a tiny, tiny piece of energy, a tiny event on the quantum scale, I think is how you say it, that then sparked a chain reaction that was then powerful. It doesn't need to have been caused by powerful. And there might be things going on, which Lawrence Krauss definitely touches on, in what is otherwise empty space that caused this kind of thing to happen. So just, I don't know. I've said on Twitter before and around the place, and you made probably my favorite meme that's ever been made of something I said, which was, if you can explain a God without a creator, you can explain a universe without a creator.
Yeah.
So that's where I sit on that one.
Yeah, me too. Similar. Which is why I made that meme.
Thanks.
So we were also going to discuss the Catholic Church. Now, you wanted to bring up something to do with that.
Yes. So discussion I had where this guy said that the Catholic Church is pro-science. And that kind of took me by surprise. And I think maybe, I'm just thinking about it now, where he got confused is that he confused some Catholics might be in favor of some science, but the Catholic Church itself is definitely not pro-science. And the first example was, they locked up a guy for saying, the Earth was round. Was it round or not the center of the solar system? I can't remember. And then he reckons that the Catholics were responsible for the scientific method, but I'm not sure about that. I know the early Muslims were doing a lot more scientific work than the Catholics were, a few hundred years ago. But then, I mentioned that the Catholics believe that modern day wafers literally turn into the flesh of a Palestinian man who's been dead for 2,000 years, if he ever did exist. They believe that a man walked on water. They believe that, a guy rose from the dead. I mean, even if you ignore some of the weirder Old Testament stuff, like people turning into salt and old mate who lived in the whale, you believe, you can discount all that. If you just stick with the Catholic bit, the New Testament stuff, there's massive amounts of anti-science stuff that is in there that they believe is true. Like no Catholic is ever coming out and saying Jesus rising from the dead and the finding the empty tomb and him appearing to Paul is an allegory. They're not saying that. They're saying it literally happened, which is complete anti-science. And then you go back to their entire story, which is Adam and Eve. And I have seen some Catholics and some other Christians try to get around the Adam and Eve story, but you can't. Adam and Eve didn't exist. They didn't. We know that there was never less than about 20,000 humans. No Adam and Eve, as it's been said. No Adam and Eve, no original sin, no fall of man, no need of saving, no need for Jesus. So even if there was a Hebrew Jewish prophet who lived 2,000 years ago and preached some stuff, there is absolutely no question that he was not there because some chick made from a rib ate an apple because she was tricked into it by a snake.
Well, they're also very virgin birth, and then they push abstinence.
Yes.
Like, we're talking more modern times, they push abstinence as well, not even just as a way to prevent pregnancy, but also for a lot of their clergy. Like, they push abstinence, and that right there, it's human nature to want to fuck.
It's very unnatural to say, I'm keeping it in my pants always.
Yeah, it's very unnatural. And I mean, right there, that's all you need to know about them. They're very anti-science.
Yeah. So an individual Catholic might be different, but when a Catholic scientist walks into a lab, they're hanging their beliefs up on the door before they go in, because I know people do try and reconcile the two ideas, but they're not. They're completely incompatible. Science and religion do not mix. They simply don't. So some guy from Perth, I can't remember his name. No, you're wrong.
All right. So now we're going to talk about some atheist parenting stuff.
Yes.
So this is something that I get asked a lot. One of the things that I get asked a lot is, you know, are you pushing atheism on your kids? And I just, I don't know how you push doubt on somebody. So that's usually my answer is if you can tell me how you push doubt on somebody, I'll let you know if that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I do a lot is promote critical thought. And like, it's like a little mantra in my house. When my son is on the internet, he'll be like, he'll tell me that he saw something or he read something, and I'll answer him, and I'll start talking, and he'll go, I know, don't believe everything you see on the internet. And the other day he was being very, very difficult, trying to get out of the house to go to his baseball game. And it was because he was on the game Roblox. Do you know Roblox? It's like some game that all the kids are playing. Anyways, he was on this game Roblox, and I couldn't get him to go put his cleats on or his hat on or anything like that. And so I finally just said, okay, no more Roblox until you're easier to get out of the house. And
nice.
And so later on, he was a little bit bored, and he was looking for stuff to do. So he was like rummaging through things in his room, and he found this map, and he brought it downstairs, and he started talking to me about this map. And he loves maps. I don't know why. Like, he will, when we give him the iPad, he just plays, and he's done this since he was 2. He just plays with like Google Earth and stuff, and the maps. And so he brought me this map, and I said, have you ever looked at an atlas? And he's like, what's an atlas? So I pulled out my big giant atlas that weighs 10 pounds. Actually, my computer's on it right now. And he starts reading through it. And in the beginning, there was this little part about how the earth was formed and everything like that. And he starts reading it out to me, just choosing to do that of his own accord. And I was like, yay. And I'm like, you know, that reminds me a lot of Cosmos. And he says, yeah, me too. Let's watch some Cosmos. So he turns on Cosmos, and we're sitting there watching Cosmos. We're just like pausing the show every few minutes and having conversations about what Tyson was saying. And like, there's like, he's watched it so many times that he's memorized practically the whole thing. And he's like, oh, here comes the part where he talks about multiverse, Mom. Here comes the part. And he's just like, it's awesome. And you know, like, I've always been a big proponent of letting my kids use their computers as much as they want, as long as I know what they're doing, you know? And because I think that if they don't understand computers at a young age, then they're going to have a lot of trouble in the world growing up. But with the whole Roblox thing, like, I felt really bad, but it turned out so great because he just was like
that's a win,
straight to Cosmos and an atlas and maps and stuff like that. So parenting win for me.
I think the thing that works is making it exciting and finding out is a goal, and it's an achievement when that happens. So I think, like, rather than drip feeding or force feeding them information, like, get them to find it, say, well, how do you find that out? What do you think? And if they do say, oh, I've read this, well, you know, search, is that true? You know, a site like Snopes, I think, you know, should be, everyone should have Snopes as a bookmark, or at least know how to get to it easily. The thing that I search a lot, just for my own wonder, is just you search what you want to know about, and then you put the word debunked at the end, and just see what comes up. And that doesn't mean that equals true, like, just because someone claims they've debunked it. But, you know, if you can find, like, the one from years ago, it used to be a thing, people saying ducks quacks don't echo, and nobody knows why. And I thought that just can't be true. And so I looked it up, and there was plenty of sites saying, you know, it's just not true. And then even Mythbusters did an episode where they literally, you know, recorded a duck's quack echoing. So, and Mythbusters is another one. Like, that's perfect. Mythbusters, they're busting myths. So, well, and Cosmos, because
I have a problem with Mythbusters, and I know that's unpopular to say. But my problem is if you actually look at like the methodology and like the control of like the stuff that they're doing for the show, it's not really all that sound. like there's so many there's so many variables that they don't look at, and like I don't know if they do that behind the scenes or whatever. So it's not like they need to say in the show that it's not like definitive that this is impossible or
I think
true or
my problem with them is they don't do enough experiments. Like they'll test something once, maybe twice, and then say confirmed or busted. And you go, oh, hang on, maybe busted. Like you can bust something, you know, with one experiment, I guess. But yeah, one of them they did. Was it better to run or walk in the rain? And so they set up all these pipes, you know, to simulate rain, and then wore these overalls, which they'd then weigh and see, you know, which one had the most water in it. And I thought, no, you've got to do that at least 500 times to know, you know, and things like that. So you're right, it's not perfect, but if kids are watching that over, you know, keeping up with the Kardashians, I'd be pretty happy.
Oh yeah, my kids wouldn't be allowed to watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Sorry.
Honestly, I don't really even know what a Kardashian is.
I just said that show got canceled. All the shows got deleted. Sorry. But yeah, I agree. It's good to start them on with like some critical thought. I just like when I'm watching it, every time they do an experiment, I'm like, wait a minute, like you could just tweak this a little bit or change that thing, or you know, and it's just it's not very thorough.
No. It's not, but it's better than other stuff. Yes, just...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say, what sorts of things did you do with your kids to promote? Because I know they're all grown up, pretty much. Yeah,
they are.
So what sorts of things did you do with your kids to promote critical thought?
The main thing was just the simple question, how do you know, or how do they know? So whenever something like that came up, I didn't just encourage the process of thought to get to that point. Like, how do you know? How do they know that that's true? And if it's, well, you know, my mate Jimmy's cousin's brother's former roommate's lady who used to work at the canteen on Wednesday afternoon said so, you know, that's not good enough. And just giving examples of, well, I think this is true because this happened, and you give an example where that happened and it wasn't true. So just things like that. The one I've used with them, and I use still to this day, is the people who say they've been abducted by aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, such and such says this, so it must be true. Well, you know, a lot of people say they were abducted by aliens. Does that mean you believe them? Oh, no. So, all right, you need to look more into that. So just encouraging the process, I guess, of thought and investigating and not necessarily discounting off the bat, because, you know, some things are true. And, you know, if someone says, hey, you should look outside, you know, there's a beautiful sunset, you're probably going to believe them. And the cost of that, if they're lying to you, is, well, you got up off the couch. So, you know, probably not so bad. So, yeah, you don't necessarily think someone is lying, but you don't necessarily accept it either. And I mean, even if someone does say that the sunset looks nice, getting up to have a look is your own investigation, isn't it? And if you see a beautiful sunset, then you've tested the claim. So that's what I try to encourage.
Yeah, me too. I always ask, how do you know? All the time I ask that. I'm like, and then I always say, you know, they could be lying. And I think one of the things that I really want to look, or I really want to watch with my son is that, I can't remember the name of it, but the documentary with James Randi where he debunks the psychics.
Yeah.
Because right there, that's enough. Like, that's enough to just show that, like, there's an entire industry around this and people pour money into it, but it's bullshit. And so, you know, if that can happen, then anybody really can be lying about anything, and you have to do your own investigation before you accept things that are, you know, important enough to have an impact on your life. If it's just, you know, oh, there's a nice sunset outside, and you go outside, there's no sunset. You've been pranked. It's not a big deal, right? but
if it's something where they're saying, you know, we want 10 grand because, you know, we're going to be able to read people's minds, you probably want to know a little bit more than someone just telling you it's true.
Yeah. And as far as when my critics say that I'm forcing atheism on my kids, I like I said, I can't do that. I can't force them to doubt something. So I tell them, you know, the exact wording that I use every time we talk about it is, this is what those people believe. I don't believe that stuff. And you can make up your own mind. If you feel that you have enough evidence to believe in this, then by all means. And, you know, if they ever come to me and they say, I do believe in a God, or I believe in Jesus or whatever, I will ask them, you know, why? How do you know? Like, what's the proof? What's the evidence? You know? And, but other than that, I mean, I'd still love them just as much. And I don't really care because, I mean, I've told you this a million times. In Canada, religion does not really matter all that much. Like, nobody talks about it. It's not a thing that gets talked about. And so, I mean, the difference, if my son says he believes in God or he says he doesn't believe in God, our relationship is going to be the same.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same. Except you just might laugh at him behind his back sometimes.
So, I mean, like I do with my mom.
Yeah. Yes. Which is an upcoming episode. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
So again,
sorry, go ahead.
So Farhad has said back in the comments again, for every effect there is a cause, and I think that cause is God, not the religious God, but the energy, which is every being. So the ultimate cause of everything is an energy. To some extent, that I think that's probably close to being right. I you know, if I had to put my own money down right now on a thing, I would say that there is something happening in a vacuum or in a mass. Like, if I think in the early stages there was not much more than hydrogen and helium all compacted, but there is something happening on a level that we are yet to understand, where energy comes into and goes out of existence uncaused. That's what I think happens. And I think that energy coming into an existence and then going out again, I mean, in relative terms, because there were maybe no time, or not time as we know it, it might have taken 400 billion years inside the singularity for anything out of the ordinary to happen. But at some points, something happened about 13.2 billion years ago, which caused the expansion. And that's why there is something rather than nothing. But I don't know that it's accurate to call that God, because, like, we have the word God and we have language for a reason. And when people say God, we know that they mean, almost usually for the people we talk to, the Abrahamic God. Like, I don't come across many people who still believe that Zeus is an actual god. There are some people, I've found them on the internet, or they claim to. But so when we say God, we mean, you know, someone that we're in the image of, or they're in the image of us, who sat up there, created the universe deliberately, and is now probably in control of life on Earth type thing. We have a word for energy, and it's energy. So we don't need to call that. And I've said this before as well, that for every explanation that we have, the hypothesis, a natural phenomenon we don't yet understand, has always come true. It's never not come true, not once. Whereas God did it, has never come true. So my money is definitely on a natural event we don't yet understand.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I like to point out that the fact that I just like, you get a lot of people saying like God is this energy, or God is a force, or God is love, or God is the universe, or God is everything, and it's just like, we have words for that already. Why do you have to assign like this mystical thing to it? Like, you have no evidence for that part. Like, that's what we're saying is sure, maybe we are the result of this energy, this all-encompassing energy, you know, but now you have to connect that all-encompassing energy to how you think it's a God. Like, like, how do you get from there to there?
What is like about it? Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you call it a God? You know?
Yeah, and not just energy.
Yeah, because I'd just call it energy and I'd be done with it. I don't need to go to church for it.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to stick it up on the wall and thanking it for what it's done for you. It's energy.
No, exactly. Anyways, so we have.
And if energy, just wanted to say quickly, if energy is the source of all that is the universe, I didn't get enough of it. That's all I'm saying. I don't have enough energy.
I need more time. I'll swap you some energy for some time.
All right, deal.
Okay.
Post it over.
All right. All right, so we have some questions that we got asked today on the InterTubes. And the first one is from Renee Boninghausen. I think.
That's.
It sounds like it might be like Dutch or German or something. Yeah. At I like Tarsiers on Twitter, and he asked, to what confidence level can you say that the claims made by theists are wrong, and what's your take on deism? Well, the claims, to what level are the claims wrong? It depends on which claims. Like,
yes,
if you're talking about the claims of the Bible, I mean, I'm pretty confident that the Bible is false. You know, I'm sure there's some little bits and pieces in there that are accurate. And, you know, like, we know that some of the places mentioned in the Bible are real and stuff like that.
Some of the people.
Yeah, some of the people are real, and probably a few of the occurrences are, you know, at least based in reality. But I don't believe like the main claims of the Bible, which is, you know, Adam and Eve, original sin, Jesus is your savior, resurrections, virgin births. I know that stuff is not true because it's scientifically impossible.
Yeah,
what do you think?
I think things like that. Yeah, agreed. Like, I think there was a flood, but there wasn't a Noah type flood all over the globe where 2 of each clean, or 7 of each clean and 2 of each other animal came. There was probably a localized flood, which someone then wrote a story about. As for confidence level, like, I'm as confident that the Bible overall, like you said, except for, you know, the odd bits and pieces, I'm as confident that the Bible overall is false as I am that Harry Potter is false or that Star Wars is false. It is fiction. I have no doubt whatsoever that the Bible is fiction. So,
yeah, me too.
I mean, I cannot, there is no element, there's no fiber in my being that can give it any credibility for a single moment. That's my confidence level.
Yeah, and any religious text that I've read is the same thing. Like, the Book of Mormon is horseshit.
Yes, it is.
That's even more horseshit than the Bible. But
yeah,
the Quran is
good musical though.
Yeah, the Quran is bullshit. I mean, a lot of the Buddhist texts that I've read are just junk, and it's most of it is just that it's not been, there's no evidence for that stuff being real, you know, and I get that, like, especially with the Buddhist stuff, like there's a lot of stuff that falls under the umbrella of Buddhism that is, you know, it's not all that hard to grasp or to believe in, like meditation is good for you, stuff like that. Like, you know, ditching your desire and kind of living a little bit more comfortable with what you have as opposed to like just wanting all the time. Those are good things. I get that those are good things and stuff like that. And that's where it ends for me, because after that it's like, oh, you can reach nirvana and you can be reincarnated and all this stuff. Well,
no.
If you're going to tell me that, then you have to prove it.
Yeah. Yep. And I think it's just it's obvious. Like it's I don't know. I don't know how anyone can take it seriously. Like it to me, but I admit they'll say the opposite, and I've had them say to me, I don't understand how you can't believe this. I don't understand how you can't see that God is real. So it's just you know, it's two sides of the same story, but they are fictional. As for and what's your take on deism? Two issues there. One, it's infinite regress again. Like if we are created by something that then buggered off and, you know, went down to their version of the coffee shop and had a coffee, then, you know, who created them? Why do they exist? And if you can explain that deistic God just existing, then surely it's much easier to explain a singularity with a force of energy coming into it existing first, because that's easier, it's more simple. And the other thing, deism, I don't know, if it is why we're here, then it doesn't matter. And deism and no God are the same. As far as our lives are concerned, there's no difference whatsoever. Yeah,
exactly. Like I think we've joked before about the idea that like maybe we're like in a petri dish or some science experiment in some giant kid's locker that's just growing out of control. Like, if that's the case, who cares? Like, why does that kid matter to us if he's forgotten about us and we're just rotting in his locker? Like, let's just take what we've got and live it. Like, I guess, you know, I get that we want to know and we're curious, but we have to be, again, okay with not knowing. We can't just inject, you know, I don't want to say theories because then people will start using that wrong. But
guesses.
Hypotheses. Yeah. And yeah, we don't want to just make guesses and inject that into our like worldview just because we don't like not knowing. Like,
yeah. All right. The next question from Ricey Cult East EU, or at RCR Cult East. Do anything for March of Science. Do you think theists are now failing to separate science from atheism? We both under attack. I did do stuff for March of Science. I looked at the photos online after it happened. So it was one of those things that, like, even though obviously people are aware I spend a bit of time online and I like reading stuff, it was one of those things where this happened. I went, oh, really? Did it? What? And even like the other day, someone I followed posted pictures of the March for Science in Melbourne, and I thought, yeah, this one just went straight past. So this was something I became aware of post it happening. And what about you? Did you do anything?
Well, I marched, but all by myself with my dog.
No.
which I do every day. But it's, I mean, nothing happened here in town, so we didn't really do anything, no.
Yeah. And the second part, do you think theists are now failing to separate science from atheism? Are we both under attack? I don't think now. I think that's been happening for years. Evolution obviously being the main science. So I've had people say that evolution is the religion of atheists, and it's bizarre. It's odd that people think that. And, you know, I try to highlight that at least 3 popes have accepted evolution to some degree. Obviously, they think there's a God with a guiding hand to it, but they three, including the current one, have acknowledged that evolution happens. And there are plenty and plenty of other theists who also accept evolution. So people saying that, you know, science and atheism is a thing has been happening, is the same thing has been happening for a long time, and it's odd because there's no science on the face of the earth that doesn't have theists participating in it. So I don't get why they can't separate them. And yes, we are definitely both under attack. Science is under attack all the time, and it's under attack by mainly corporations or people inside corporations and people inside governments who stand to make a lot of money from how things are now compared to how science is saying they're becoming. And that's a big issue. But there's also people who will make money from how science becomes, which can also be a good thing. Like, you know, things like renewable energy. I know David Suzuki said probably about 15 years ago, he said companies like BP and other oil companies need to realize they're in the energy business, not the oil business.
Yeah.
And the world is turning and changing, and people are getting to the point where they will demand renewable energy. It will just be, if you can't provide enough renewable energy, I'm taking my business elsewhere. And these big oil companies need to realize that, and coal companies, and get on the renewable bandwagon.
Yeah, I think that I get a lot of the theists conflating atheism with science. And I mean, the way that I usually deal with that is I say that there's, you know, I've talked to atheists who don't accept evolution, and I've talked to atheists who are, you know, against certain, like, who don't, I know atheists who don't believe in climate change. And I mean, my mom's an atheist, and she, I mean, we will, on the next episode, we will go over some of the things that she believes. Sorry, Mom. And but some of the things she believes, I mean, it's completely unscientific, and it's just not the same thing. And I mean, online, I think there's two different groups of atheists that people talk about a lot. And one is the group of us who are online, who are talking all the time about it, who are trying to raise awareness for, you know, atheism, basically. And those types of people are usually very science oriented, but there are so many more atheists out there in the world who never talk about it, who have absolutely no interest in science whatsoever, who are just average, everyday, regular people who do not believe in God. And I don't understand why people can't see that group. I get it because they're not loud, you know.
Yeah, that's
we're
the thing.
Loud, but they are a much larger group than we are.
Yeah.
And
I guess if a theist is talking to an atheist who is vocal about being an atheist and is vocal about theism being wrong, then it's almost a one-for-one relationship that particular atheist is going to have at least an admiration and a bit of understanding about the sciences. So I think you're right. That's where the issue comes up, that if you're talking to an atheist, they probably, about atheism, they probably like science. So they get in their head this idea that they're one and the same. But like you said, there's a hell of a lot of atheists out there who aren't into science. They don't care. They don't read about it. They don't study it or anything.
Yeah, exactly. My dad's one of them too. My dad's very into like history and social sciences. But, you know, that's not really science, really.
No, not really.
Yeah, so that's my answer. And yes, I do think that we are both under attack. I mean, science obviously is under attack with the people fighting climate change and all that stuff and saying that it's a hoax. And then there's also the, you know, all the atheists in, I guess, India now, and Bangladesh and stuff like that, who have been murdered, and in Saudi Arabia, Singapore even, where they've been jailed. And and now we are we're experiencing some issues on YouTube with the monetization because we're being deemed not advertiser friendly, which is, it's not all of us though, so I don't think it's the atheism issue, because for instance all of our videos as Common Heathens are still monetized, and we have one that has been demonetized, and I have, I think, 2 videos on my Godless Mom channel that have been demonetized, but outside of that they're all still monetized, so I don't think it's just the atheism thing. I think it's more yeah, I think it's the actual subject matter that you're talking about. But I still think it's bullshit. I mean, one of the videos that got demonetized was the one where I talk about nothing to do with Islam.
Ah, right.
I mean,
interesting.
Whatever.
Yeah. So Xavier in the comments says that he is ricey, so thanks for your question. And he said before that he likes my front door, so I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Yeah, that's a really cool door.
Yeah, it is actually. It does the job. Keeps people out, keeps me in, keeps the weather out. So yeah.
Actually, it's funny because before we started this, Oz had to leave to go drop somebody off at the train, and so I'm sitting here and I'm just looking at his empty house, and I'm thinking, what if somebody breaks in and robs Mr. Oz while I'm sitting here watching? What the hell do I do? Who do I call? How do I get in touch with the Melbourne police? Do I have his address? You know?
Yeah, that would have been weird.
Yeah, it would have. Because when I heard you come back too, I was like, you were banging around quite a bit before you actually came into the view.
I did, yeah, because you weren't there when I got back. So I have a door from the garage straight into the house. So I came in through there and went straight into my room. And then, yeah, you must have come back when I was just doing stuff, and you thought, I'm glad you knew it was me and not some stranger. Yeah. That'd be weird.
All right. So the next question, and this one came from email from Dave. He says, to me, it is a struggle of reason against reason. Keeping society from descending back to the Dark Ages requires a paradigm shift in the way atheists approach belief. Do we need to rethink the way we, for the want of a better word, sell atheism? What do you think, Oz?
I think so. To yes. So I have tweeted something out before that I made, and it on online. Yeah, it's very much an atheism versus theism thing, and we do have a lot of discussions over just simply whether or not belief in God is rational or whatever. But on the bigger scale of things, the theism and atheism thing go out the door, and I think it's more important on a societal level to promote things like critical thinking, skepticism, compassion, fairness, equality, and freedom over things like oppression, judgment, faith, superstition, and things like that. So I think, yeah, the way to get it to happen is to forget the atheism, theism, and concentrate on the benefits of what you're selling and sell the benefits. And if you can say, when someone says X, Y, Z, well, this is the outcome of that. But when I say A, B, C, this is the outcome, and sell that outcome as being a better thing for society as a whole, that's when you're going to achieve better outcomes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that pushing atheism, like talking about actually being an atheist in real life, if you're trying to maybe create some doubt in somebody that you're talking to, I don't think that talking about atheism is the most important thing. I think, like you said, it's poking holes, it's promoting skepticism. I think that the Freedom from Religion Foundation is doing some really good work in making sure that they're fighting stuff like creationism being taught in school and stuff like that, and the American Atheists do similar stuff. But I think that that's really important work, and of course we're going to look like the bad guys in those situations, but it's something that you have to do. We have to fight that for the sake of the next generations. But yeah, I think that the most important thing is just leave theism and atheism out of it and promote science and skepticism and critical thought and stuff like that.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. And then once you get there, like I know you've spoken about it a lot, having the Star Trek view of things, and if it ever is to get to that point, then it's, like I said, but benefits to the society as a whole. And like things, I've brought this up a lot, the marriage equality issue that we have in Australia, because we still don't have it. And the argument against it is 100% religious. So whenever I discuss it, I don't talk about being an atheist. I don't talk about them being a theist. I simply ask, if two people of the same gender get married, how is your life worse off? What's the disincentive to allow that to happen? And they never have any arguments. And I think that's the way to go about it. Point out the flaw in what they're suggesting and why the opposite of what they're suggesting is actually more beneficial.
Yeah, I think that, like, one of the things that I've seen a few people say about this is that we should work towards outlawing certain religions. Like, I've seen a lot of people say that Islam should be outlawed. And it's just not a thing that can happen. Like, you can write those laws in the books all you want, but, you know, when we've seen societies try to do that before, and it doesn't work.
No, they just go underground and then they become unmonitorable, and, you know, they get more radicalized. And no, I don't think that's the answer. You educate it away. You don't ban it away. Yeah,
exactly. Like, and it's working already because atheists are on the rise. And I mean, the conversation is becoming more mainstream. You know, I can walk down the street in my atheist hoodie and not have people like recoil in horror anymore. I'm not getting burned at the stake. And yeah, I just think that we need to, I think we need to just try to, like, feel angry about the things that religion is doing in the world. Feel angry about it. That's good. You should. But to behave angrily and think that that's how we're going to cure this is just not something that's going to work. It's never worked before.
It's not. I've got a question from Chris. Did your family come as 19th century immigrants or 18th century criminal deportations or 10-pound POMs, Mr.? I don't know what a 10-pound POM is, but I'm pretty sure they were 19th century immigrants. So I think I go back 4 generations of born here, and then before that, English and Scottish people who came over at some point. Yeah, but I don't know, actually. I don't think we were convicts going back, but we might be.
I've done my family tree back to the 1600s.
Wow, nice.
We moved from the US like 100 years ago.
Okay.
So I'm American.
You yank. Wow. Right, that's it. End of Common Heathens. We're done.
So there was a second part to that question that I read from Dave in the email.
Okay.
And it was, theists are generally given state-sanctioned privileges. They find comfort in their delusions. Theists prefer employing other theists and often give each other preferential treatment. What then is the value proposition for being an atheist? What is it that sells atheism? And my answer to that is truth. I mean, that's it. It's, if you're concerned with what's true, that's the selling point.
Yeah. And I think Matt Dillahunty says it, and a few others. Do you care if what you believe is true?
Mm-hmm.
And then if the answer is yes, and like everyone says yes, like surely, then you go on to discuss, well, how do you know it's true, like we were saying before. And yes, they do give state-sanctioned privileges, but the answer to that is the same answer as before. Start teaching benefits to society as a whole, rather than, you know, benefits to this particular group. Or it's not even benefits. Like, again, marriage equality. People who are against it don't benefit from it not being a thing. No one benefits from it not being a thing, but people will benefit from when it happens. Like, simply, people will be allowed to get married. Like, I mean, that's the only benefit you really need. But, you know, we'll sell more wedding cakes, we'll sell more wedding dresses, we'll hire more wedding suits, we'll hire more wedding photographers. I'm available. Things like that. So, you know, there will be a benefit to it. So I don't, yeah, that's my thing. Teach the benefits. Not only teach the benefits of what you want to do, teach the downside of what they're preaching or they're promoting.
Yeah, and I think
eventually you'll get through.
Yeah, I think the instances of the theists getting state-sanctioned privileges too is shrinking in most places in the world, and I strongly believe that you know, the internet is going to be the cause of religion kind of becoming obsolete. I think in the, you know, I don't really think it's going to be all that far off, to be honest with you. I think, you know, as the older generations die off and the new generations are brought up with the internet, that it's just going to be impossible for them to believe these things and still, you know, have access to all of this information at their fingertips, and also be exposed to the conversations that we're having online. You know, like that's what causes doubt in people, and I think that it's just gonna iron itself out, you know, providing we don't lose the internet anytime soon, which would be scary.
Well, I'm not sure about the internet, like how bannable it is. Like, I've heard that there's not much, or you can't get internet or much internet in North Korea. So I don't know. Again, I'm sure like there's resistance. I'm sure there's underground stuff going on in North Korea that, you know, maybe we're not aware about. I certainly hope there is. But yes, in places where there is internet, like, you know, you could sort of imagine a family or even a community's, you know, footloose style, wanting to ban something because, you know, it's going to corrupt the youngsters. But good luck trying to keep, you know, teenagers, early 20-year-olds off the internet. That's going to be a hard task. And it makes me think of things like the French resistance during World War II, you know, the underground messages, the people who, you know, supported the Nazis on the outside but had tunnels under their houses on the inside, you know, and that were helping the whole time. I know, well, I was going to say, you know, it's not lives at stake, but it is actually lives are at stake. Like in Saudi Arabia in the last 24 or 48 hours, another atheist was sentenced to death. So there are actually lives at stake here. And yes, the internet is the underground message system of the present, and you're right, the information will get out. And it's like one of the things that bugs me that atheists do is they call religious people stupid quite often. And I might have done it myself, but I try to say believing this is stupid because, if I'm going to say it at all. But we've got to also be aware that there are communities of people who have never been exposed to anything other than the idea of their religion. And once they are, their mind is open, they change, you know, what they think, they change how they go about it. So you can't just say, if you're religious, you're stupid. They might not know anything else. But as you say, the exposure to the internet and these conversations that we have, even, you know, a simple meme that might come across someone's screen one day could one day make all the difference.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And with the internet, like when I said if we ever lost the internet, I was talking more along the lines of like nuclear war or something like that, where it's like we don't really have a choice. Post-apocalyptic internet loss. That's sad. That's a sad thought.
Yeah, I love post-apocalyptic stories, though. Post-apocalyptic. Did I say post-apocalyptic?
You said poke. Yes, I like them too.
Yeah, yeah, even back to Mad Max and things like that. Yeah, they're cool. And yeah, I think it was Sam Harris who said, if you've got rid of all of the information we've ever gathered in the history of the world, science will once again be the same.
Yeah.
We'll still discover. We might call it different things, but we'll still discover that water is hydrogen and oxygen. We'll still understand, how plants grow and things like that. We'll understand how to predict the weather, but the story of the talking snake will be gone for good.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's the key. The key is selling. How do you sell atheism, or what sells it? Truth.
Yeah, it's truth.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, that I think is where we have to end it, because I have to take my son to baseball practice. Yes, he has to go hit some balls.
Hit some balls. What's he good at? Is he a pitcher or is he a batter?
He is a pitcher,
nice.
but he's just starting out because he's only 8. So he's just starting out, and so they're all kind of learning everything. But his grandpa is the coach. And
oh, right. Okay.
I watched my dad coach my brother, which means that my son will likely get all the pitching positions. My dad is guilty of favoritism.
Well, that's his benefit from putting in his time as coach, isn't it?
Yeah, he loves his grandson a lot. So yeah, should be fun tonight.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Hope you've enjoyed podcast number 12, episode 12. Again, if you would like to support us, the best and easiest way to do it is say, hey, I watched this and it was good, or I listened to this and it was good. Get your friends to listen. That would be great.
You can also subscribe. Hold on. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes, and you can give us a rating there, like be honest. I'm not going to ask you to give us 5 stars. Oz will do that.
Yeah.
But I don't mind you being honest. And and yeah, you can subscribe to us there, and SoundCloud and Stitcher and all of those places. But I just wanted to mention before we go that the next episode, which we've hinted at a couple of times, is going to be all about like alternative medicine and like all these crazy theories that these
conspiracy theories and
like chemtrails and all of that stuff. And it should be pretty funny because I have a lot of personal stories from my mom about that. So it should be a lot of laughing and a lot of hilarity. So subscribe to us here on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed, and then you will get the notifications when we're live. If you hit the little bell too, hit the little bell. Yeah.
Yes, we want to be regular, but anyone who has been following our podcast for a little while knows that we're not. No. We do it when we can, but it's not always possible to do it at a regular time. But hopefully that'll change one day.
Yeah.
And yes, we do have a Patreon, and yes, if you would like to support us there, patreon.com/commonheathens, and that will help us be able to be more regular and to get some better equipment and things like that as well.
Yes. Let's stop using these little. We were talking earlier about how good these little microphones are, but they're not as good as it could be. So
I've got this one, my little R2D2 type one. I love it.
Yeah,
it's very. Yes,
I had a headset with a microphone once, but it broke.
Oh,
and it leaves little black stuff in my hair.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah. Anyways.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.